The morning began like any other. The rain had left streaks across the window, soft light breaking through a heavy sky. Ethan Cole stirred his coffee absently, the sound of the spoon clinking against the mug echoing in the quiet of his small kitchen. Everything felt ordinary, until his phone buzzed. A news alert blinked across the screen. Fatal car crash on Highway 17, driver identified as Ethan Cole. For a moment he just stared at it. The words didn't make sense. He read them again. His name. His license plate. His car, a silver sedan with a cracked taillight. The same car sitting in his garage. The mug slipped from his hand and shattered across the floor. His pulse quickened as he grabbed his keys. The rational part of his brain whispered, "It's a mistake. Someone reused your name. Coincidence." But a deeper voice, cold and certain, said otherwise. He stepped outside. The air was sharp, carrying the smell of wet asphalt. As he approached the garage, something in him hesitated. He pressed the button for the door. The motor whirred, slow and heavy, until the metal creaked open. The garage was empty. Ethan's heart stopped. His car was gone. He spun around, scanning the driveway, the street, the neighboring yards. Nothing. No tire marks. No sound. Just the echo of the door closing behind him. He rushed back inside, hands shaking as he opened his laptop. The same headline glared back at him. But now there was a photo. A mangled silver sedan, smoke curling from the hood. The front license plate barely visible, his plate. He clicked on the image. The body of the driver was blurred out, but the outline, the dark hair, the cut of the jacket, identical to the one hanging on his chair. Ethan stumbled backward, the air suddenly heavy. His own reflection in the laptop screen seemed to look back differently, eyes darker, more distant. He whispered, "This isn't real." His phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "We're sorry for your loss." The next message followed instantly. "You should have stayed home that night." His fingers froze. What night? He tried calling the number, but the line went dead before the first ring. The seconds stretched, thick with silence. He looked around the room, suddenly aware of every creak in the walls, every flicker of the light above. His mind scrambled for logic, for something solid to hold on to, but all he found was dread. He opened the news article again, scrolling down for details. The report mentioned the crash occurred just past midnight, less than 6 hours ago. The driver was pronounced dead at the scene. No passengers. Cause, loss of control. Impact fatal. Ethan's breath came shallow. He hadn't gone anywhere last night. At least, he didn't think he had. He turned to the mirror across the room. His reflection stood still, too still. For a moment he thought it blinked slower than he did. The lights flickered. The faint sound of tires screeching echoed somewhere in the distance, or maybe inside his head. And then, from behind him, his phone lit up once more with a single message. "We found your body." The message glowed on Ethan's phone. "We found your body." He stared at it until the screen dimmed, his reflection appearing faintly in the black glass. The same reflection that, a moment ago, hadn't blinked in sync with him. He stood, walking toward the mirror across the room. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing against his chest. Every step echoed louder than it should have. When he stopped in front of the mirror, the room seemed to grow quieter, as if holding its breath. Ethan's reflection stared back, pale, tense, eyes darkened by sleeplessness. He lifted his hands slowly, and the reflection followed. Perfectly normal. Until it didn't. When he lowered his hand, the reflection didn't move. Ethan froze. The seconds dragged by. His pulse thundered in his ears. He blinked hard, once, twice. The reflection stayed still, eyes locked on him. Then, without warning, it smiled. A cold rush of panic shot through him. He stumbled backward, knocking over the table lamp. The glass shattered, plunging the room into a dim orange glow from the streetlight outside. "Stop," he whispered, more to himself than to it. The reflection tilted its head. Slowly, deliberately, the same way Ethan used to do when thinking. Then the smile faded, replaced by something worse. Fear. Ethan stepped closer, trying to convince himself it was a trick of the light, fatigue, or maybe a hallucination. But the fear in the reflection's eyes wasn't his. It looked as though his mirror self was warning him. "Who are you?" Ethan whispered. The reflection moved its lips. No sound came out, but he could read the words. "Don't trust them." His breath caught. "Who?" he said aloud. The reflection's mouth opened again, forming another silent phrase, before the mirror fogged over completely. The condensation spread like frost, and a handprint appeared on the inside. A hand! From the other side. Ethan stumbled back, hitting the wall. His phone buzzed again. Another message. "Unknown number, stop looking." His stomach turned cold. He dropped the phone and it clattered to the floor. For a moment he stood there, staring at the mirror, heart pounding. The fog began to fade, revealing only his own terrified face once more. But something was wrong. His reflection was slightly out of sync, like a video with a half-second delay. Then his reflection turned away. Ethan didn't move. His body was still. But the figure in the mirror slowly looked over its shoulder, eyes fixed on something behind him. He spun around. Nothing. Just the flicker of the hallway light. He turned back. The reflection was gone. The mirror now showed only an empty room. He grabbed the mirror's edge, shaking it. "Where are you?" Silence. Then, faintly, a sound echoed from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow. Uneven. Getting closer. Ethan pressed himself against the wall, staring toward the dark hallway. The last light flickered out. The footsteps stopped just at the doorway. He could barely make out the outline of a man, tall, motionless, standing in the dark. And then, in a voice that sounded exactly like his own, the figure whispered, "You shouldn't have seen that." Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat on the couch until dawn, staring at the dark hallway where the figure had stood. When the first light touched the blinds, he finally moved, grabbing his jacket, car keys, and the half-burned newspaper clipping that had started it all. The headlines still haunted him: "Local man dies in fiery crash, identified as Ethan Cole." But the date was tomorrow. He drove. Not to anywhere specific, just away. Away from the apartment, away from mirrors, away from the feeling that something was watching him from inside his own life. The town was quiet that morning. Too quiet. Streets that should have been filled with joggers and kids heading to school were empty. The traffic lights blinked yellow over silent intersections. A faint mist clung to the air like smoke. Ethan turned onto the main road, following the coordinates listed in the police report, the crash site. The further he drove, the more wrong everything looked. Landmarks were missing. Signs had different names. A gas station he passed every day was now just a boarded-up shell, its logo faded and half torn away. He slowed the car. What the hell? His GPS showed a line, a straight route that ended in the middle of a blank, gray space. He kept driving. The road narrowed, twisting through the forest. Then suddenly, without any curve or warning, it ended. No turn. No junction. No barrier. Just broken asphalt leading into fog. Ethan slammed the brakes. Gravel scattered under the tires. He stepped out, heart pounding, and stared at the nothingness ahead. The forest, the road, even the air. It was as if reality had been erased with a rough brush. He called out, "Hello." His voice echoed strangely, too long, like the air itself was hollow. Then, faintly, he heard something, the crackle of static. He turned toward the sound. It came from the car radio, which had switched on by itself. The dial flickered through frequencies, stopping on one. His name whispered through the static. "Ethan." He froze. "Who is this?" A distorted voice answered, low and broken, "You shouldn't have left the road." He spun toward the fog again, and saw it. A figure standing in the mist, just far enough that he couldn't make out its face. It was motionless, but he could feel its eyes on him. Then the static rose to a scream. The car engine roared, even though the keys were still in his hand. He ran toward it, but before he reached the door, the headlights turned on by themselves, flooding the fog with harsh white light. The road was gone, replaced by a sheer drop. He stumbled back, heart hammering. The light illuminated a twisted wreck at the bottom of the ravine, a car, burned and unrecognizable. Ethan's knees weakened. His breath caught in his throat. The license plate was his. The voice returned, quieter now, almost gentle. You already crashed, Ethan. You just haven't realized it yet. The radio clicked off. Silence fell. He stared down at the wreck, trying to process the impossible. And then, from inside the burned car, he saw movement. A hand pressed against the cracked windshield. His own hand. Ethan's breath came in short, panicked bursts. The world felt like it was folding in on itself, fog thickening, air buzzing with static, the smell of burned metal and ash clogging his throat. The wreck at the bottom of the ravine was real. The hand inside it was real. But it couldn't be his. He stumbled closer to the edge, gripping a broken tree branch for balance. The wrecked car's roof was crushed inward, smoke still curling up from the twisted frame. The windshield was shattered, and through the cracks, he could see himself. Not a reflection. Not a dream. Eyes closed. Head tilted to the side. His own jacket, torn and bloodied. For a moment, everything went silent, even the wind. Then the passenger door creaked open. Ethan froze as the metal groaned. From the dark interior, a shadow moved, slow, deliberate, human. It stepped out and the light caught its face. It was him again. Same features. Same cut on the chin. Same terrified expression. But this version of Ethan looked aware. Like he'd been waiting. The duplicate stared up at him. Then, with a voice that seemed to echo from inside Ethan's skull, it spoke. You're in the wrong seat. Ethan backed away, shaking his head. No, this isn't. But the figure stepped closer, its movements jerky, like time itself was lagging. The fog pulsed with each word. You weren't supposed to see this road again. The ground trembled. Ethan looked down. The asphalt at his feet began to crack, spiderwebbing outward. The ravine below started to fade, replaced by flashes of something else. Hospital lights, an oxygen mask, the sound of distant monitors. Then, as quickly as it came, it vanished. He was back at the edge, gasping. The second Ethan was gone. The wreck was gone too, replaced by an empty road under a dull gray sky. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He snatched it up, no signal, no time. But one notification blinked on the lock screen. Accident report updated, passenger identified. He opened it. The screen glitched, words flickering. He managed to read only a few before it froze. Passenger, Cole, Evelyn. His stomach dropped. Evelyn. His wife. She'd been gone for 3 years. Lost in a car crash on a mountain road. His mind reeled. No, that's not possible. That wasn't this road. But deep down he knew it was. He'd buried the truth under guilt and grief, and the headline that showed his name was never a mistake. It was a message. He looked back at the driver's seat. His reflection in the car window was gone. Only the passenger seat was visible now, empty but glowing faintly with a golden light, like it was waiting. The radio came to life again, whispering. She's still there, Tfin. The light pulsed once, and the passenger door slowly opened. Ethan took a step forward, trembling. He knew what was waiting for him inside. And yet, he couldn't stay away. He reached for the door handle, and the light vanished. Only his reflection stared back, sitting in the passenger seat. The silence after the light vanished felt heavier than the fog itself. Ethan's reflection lingered faintly in the glass, seated in the passenger seat, staring back at him with hollow, lifeless eyes. He blinked and it was gone. Only his own face remained. But something had changed. The car wasn't just a wreck anymore. It was a doorway, one he was meant to open. Inside, the dashboard lights flickered weakly. The air smelled of burnt rubber and old rain. On the passenger seat lay a small, black device, half melted, with a red indicator light blinking faintly. A flight recorder. Ethan frowned. A black box? In a car? It didn't make sense. But the label on its side froze his breath. Property of Evelyn Cole. He reached for it with trembling fingers. The moment his skin touched the metal, a sharp tone pierced the air, high-pitched, painful, almost like the scream of feedback through an old speaker. The sound deepened into static, and then a voice broke through. Tfin, are you listening? He dropped it in shock. The voice, It was hers. Evelyn. Soft, calm, but distant, like she was speaking through a storm. Evelyn. He grabbed the device again, pressing it to his ear. Evelyn, where are you? What is this? The static crackled, then faded into a low hum. Her voice returned, trembling this time. They told me not to record it. But I had to. You needed to know what happened on that road. His throat tightened. His memories fought to surface. The night of the crash, the curve in the mountain road, the blinding headlights. But every time he tried to remember her face in that moment, the image dissolved into smoke. The recording continued. I saw something in the rearview mirror that night. It wasn't another car, Ethan. It was you. He froze. His heart pounded in his ears. What do you mean, me? But the recording didn't answer him, it wasn't meant to. Evelyn's voice carried on, whispering as if she was afraid someone might overhear. You were already there, standing in the road, watching us crash. I thought, maybe I was dreaming. But when I crawled out, you were gone. And the car was burning. Ethan clutched the black box tighter. His pulse was a roar now. No, I didn't, that's not possible. The red light blinked faster. Static surged, and then her voice broke through one final time. If you're hearing this, it means the road's opened again. But don't follow it, Ethan. Not this time. They'll make you take her place. The sound cut abruptly. Silence. He sat there for a long time, hands shaking. The fog outside pressed closer, thick and alive. From somewhere in the distance, a faint rumble echoed, like tires rolling slowly over gravel. Then the radio inside the car clicked on by itself. The same static, the same tone. But this time, it wasn't Evelyn's voice. It was his own. Test recording fleet unknown, passenger, Evelyn Cole. His blood ran cold. He hadn't recorded that. He never had. He turned toward the passenger seat again. The black box was gone. In its place was a folded photo, burnt at the edges, of him and Evelyn in the car. But in the reflection of the rearview mirror, he wasn't the driver. The headlights glowed faintly against the fog as Ethan sat motionless behind the wheel. The photograph trembled in his hands, the burnt edges, the reflection, Evelyn's frozen smile. In the rearview mirror, his eyes met his own, except the reflection blinked a moment too late. A chill crawled down his spine. He turned the key. The engine started instantly, though the battery had been dead for years. The radio hissed with static, then settled into silence. He took a deep breath. One last drive, he whispered. The road ahead stretched like a dark ribbon through the mist, the same one where it had all ended. Every turn felt too familiar, every mile replayed like a memory stuck on loop. He drove slowly, the tires whispering against the wet asphalt. The fog seemed to pulse with faint light, as if the air itself remembered what happened here. Halfway down the road, the rearview mirror flickered. For a split second, he saw another car, identical to his, driving right behind him. Its headlights never blinked, never dimmed. Ethan's pulse quickened. He pressed the accelerator. The other car matched his speed. He slowed down, it slowed too. Evelyn, he muttered. What did you mean, they'll make me take your place? He gripped the steering wheel tighter. The world outside looked wrong, too mirrored, too symmetrical. The trees bent inward, curving toward the road like silent witnesses. When he reached the sharp turn, the same one where their crash happened, the air seemed to hum. And then he saw it. Another wreck. Identical to his car. Burnt, twisted, headlights still glowing faintly. Smoke curled upward, though the metal was cold. Inside the shattered windshield sat two silhouettes, one slumped, one upright. He parked beside it, heart hammering. Stepping out, he approached the wreck cautiously. The fog swirled around him, thick and electric. When he looked through the broken glass, he froze. The driver was Evelyn. Her head tilted against the seat, eyes open but empty. Her lips were parted, as if she had been about to say his name. But the passenger, it was him. Not a reflection. Not a trick. His own lifeless body, sitting still, hand locked around the black box recorder. Ethan stumbled back, shaking his head. No, this isn't real. This can't be real. The headlights of the second car behind him flared, blinding white light. He turned, shielding his eyes. The other car screeched to a stop just inches away. And through its windshield he saw himself again, driving. His reflection smiled. The radio in the wreck crackled to life. Evelyn's voice whispered, "You shouldn't have driven the mirror road, Ethan. Every reflection demands a replacement." He looked back. The body in the wreck began to fade. Smoke rose from its skin like mist dissolving in light. The version of him in the car behind stepped out slowly, walking toward him, eyes burning with pale, unnatural calm. Ethan tried to move, but his body stiffened, like glass hardening from within. The reflection stopped inches away, leaned in and whispered, "It's time you finished the drive." Then everything shattered, the road, the fog, the air, folding inward like a mirror breaking in reverse. The world reassembled in fragments of sound, the hiss of rain, the hum of tires, the faint rhythm of a heartbeat that didn't feel like his own. Ethan's eyes fluttered open to find himself once again behind the wheel. The fog outside pulsed in slow waves, glowing faintly like it was breathing. But this time, he wasn't alone. In the reflection of the passenger side window, he saw a faint silhouette. A woman, her hair damp, her hands resting neatly in her lap. "Evelyn." He didn't dare turn his head. "You're not really here," he whispered. Her voice came softly through the static of the radio, though her lips never moved. "You took my place, Ethan. You crossed the mirror road. Now you have to finish what I couldn't." He gripped the steering wheel tighter, the leather cold and slick beneath his palms. "What does that mean?" "You kept driving," she said. "You never stopped, even after the crash." The rain began to fall harder, drumming against the windshield in rhythmic taps. Through the wiper's slow sweep, the world outside looked warped, like a reflection rippling across water. Ethan's pulse raced. The headlights from another car flickered behind them, faint at first, then blindingly bright. He glanced in the mirror. It was his own car again. Empty. Moving on its own. Evelyn's reflection turned toward him. "It's trying to take you back." The engine roared suddenly, unprompted. Ethan slammed on the brakes, but the pedal sank uselessly to the floor. The car didn't slow down, it accelerated. The landscape blurred, lines of light smearing like wet paint. The road stretched endlessly ahead, the same turn replaying again and again. "Stop!" he yelled, twisting the wheel. But the car didn't respond. Evelyn's reflection flickered, her voice cutting through the noise, "You can't change direction when you're already dead." The words hit him like a collision. Dead. The steering wheel jerked in his hands, and the car veered sharply. For a heartbeat, everything went silent, then a crash of light. When the world steadied, he was no longer moving. The engine was off. The fog had cleared, and the passenger's seat was empty. He opened the door and stepped out onto wet gravel. Around him was silence, a stillness so complete it hurt. Ahead stood an old roadside chapel, the same one from his dreams. A single candle flickered inside, casting a shadow on the wall that looked exactly like Evelyn's silhouette. He approached slowly, drawn by something he didn't understand. On the chapel's wooden steps lay the black box recorder, scorched and cracked open. He picked it up. It buzzed faintly, then played the last recorded message. Evelyn's voice whispered, soft and trembling. "They said the passenger always returns for the one who caused the crash. I didn't survive mine, but maybe you weren't meant to either." The message ended with a sound, a faint seatbelt click. Ethan turned sharply. The car door had swung open behind him. The passenger seat light was on. Something, or someone, was waiting inside. He took a slow step forward, heart pounding. The candlelight flickered violently as a low voice echoed from the open door. "Ready for the final drive, Ethan?" The night air was still. The only sound was the slow creak of the car door swinging open. Ethan stood frozen, his reflection staring back at him in the rain-streaked window. The passenger seat light glowed faintly, a cold, yellow hue that felt more like a warning than a welcome. He stepped closer. The air around him thickened, every breath heavy with static. The black box recorder in his hand buzzed one last time before going silent. He placed it on the passenger seat and whispered, "If you're real, show me." The headlights flickered on by themselves, illuminating the empty road ahead. The engine started with a groan, like something awakening after years of sleep. The radio came to life too, but it wasn't music. It was the same crash report from the beginning. The same timestamp. The same coordinates. Accident on Route 39, the voice said calmly. Vehicle identified, black sedan. Driver, Ethan Ward. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. His pulse thundered. "That's not possible," he muttered. "That already happened." In the rearview mirror, something moved, a faint shimmer of motion. He looked up, and his reflection smiled back. But it wasn't his smile. The reflection leaned forward and whispered, "You never left." Ethan's knuckles whitened. "I'm not dead." The reflection's voice deepened, layered with echoes. "Then why are you still driving in circles?" The fog outside began to crawl closer again, swallowing the world beyond the headlights. The asphalt cracked under the tires, stretching into shapes that looked almost organic. Veins, arteries, something alive. He hit the gas instinctively, desperate to break free. The car surged forward. The speedometer climbed, 60, 80, 100. The road blurred. And then he saw it. The exact curve. The exact guardrail. The same shattered sign that had marked the place of the first crash. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. No, not again. The headlights flashed, and for an instant he saw another car racing toward him in the opposite lane. Identical make. Identical license plate. Identical him. He yanked the wheel, but this time, the reflection didn't move. It kept driving straight. Two identical cars. One driver. One mirror. The impact came, not with sound, but with silence. A blinding light swallowed everything. The sensation was like being pulled through water, through glass, through himself. When the light faded, Ethan found himself standing outside the wreckage. Two twisted vehicles smoldered on the wet asphalt. One crushed beyond recognition, the other perfectly intact. The intact car's driver's side door opened slowly. He stepped closer, rain soaking his clothes. Inside sat a man slumped over the wheel. His face was eerily calm. His eyes half open. Ethan leaned in and saw himself. Not breathing. Not blinking. Just still. The radio crackled again. The same voice as before whispered, "Second impact confirmed. Passenger released." Ethan turned sharply. Behind him, the fog had lifted. The world was still. The other version of himself faded into the air like smoke, leaving behind the faint smell of rain and gasoline. He looked at the road ahead and saw dawn breaking. For the first time, the road didn't loop. It led somewhere new. He got into the car, started the engine, and drove into the light. The crash site vanished in the mirror behind him. The end.